Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be another Canadian Soldier Reacts video, and today we are looking at Welcome to the Jungle, the British Army's brutal Belize jungle training. So as most of you will probably know by now, I'm a former Canadian soldier, and I spent 12 years in the 1st Battalion of the Royal Canadian Regiment. At the time, 87 to 98, this was one of Canada's few SSF battalions. So we were trained in basically every type of warfare that you could get. However, we never did any specific jungle training, even though we had the jungle boots, same ones that this guy's wearing by the look of it, and kind of similar web gear, to be honest. So I'm really interested to see what's different in the jungle from the type of training that we did. We did a lot of forest training, a lot of Arctic training. We were in all kinds of different conditions, mountains, deserts. We did desert training. Yeah, really looking forward to this. So let's get after it.
If you can survive here, you can survive anywhere. This Central American jungle is unforgiving, from humidity to hurricanes and the animals found in between.
So, I mean, not most, a lot of the training that we did was on training bases. And when you're on a training base, there's not really any real danger, right? If you get lost, just pick a direction and lost and separated. Pick a direction, go in that direction for long enough. You're going to find a road. You're going to find the edge of the base. It might take a couple of days if you're in Gagetown, but you're going to find it. We didn't often do training outside of those environments. However, we did some of our Arctic training. We went up way north where there was no base. So when you're on the exercise and you're doing, let's just say, a night march in minus 56-degree weather, if you get separated and lost, you could go for days in any particular direction and never find anything. So a lot more danger. Same thing in the jungle, or sorry, not the jungle, the desert training that we did, and several of the exercises that we did with NATO over in Denmark, Norway, Turkey, things of that nature. So going to someplace like this adds just one extra level to the training that is, to be honest, pretty cool.
The British Army sends its soldiers to Belize to learn how to survive, live, and fight in a jungle.
This is why
live fire.
Soldiers come to Belize. This thick canopy and dense foliage. But how do you survive fighting?
Yeah, so to be honest, in the forests of northern Ontario, you have a thick canopy and dense foliage. Again, not jungle. In Petawawa, there's a number of swamps that we used. I say used. We were in them a lot. Actually, even in Ipperwash, there was kind of a swampy area. I remember coming back one time. I was doing nav, map and compass training on my pre-6A. And this was I think it was our final test when they took away both your map and compass and told you to go. And I fell into this. It looked like a puddle, and it was like, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Pitch black outside. I fell into this puddle, and I literally went down to my armpits. The only thing that stopped me from going down was my arms coming out beside me. And when I got back, literally, I was black from here down. It was nuts.
In the jungle.
We did that kind of water fording.
This
Fair
is
bit.
Guacamaya training area in Belize. Size-wise, it's not too dissimilar to Salisbury Plain, but you can tell by the dense foliage and the thick canopy, it's challenging conditions for the soldiers to exercise in.
I love the
Here, they can
civilians'
get
view
through
of this
around
stuff.
1 kilometre a day on foot if they're lucky, compared to back home in Salisbury, where they can cover around 4 kilometres an hour.
Around 120 soldiers
depends
from the
what you're
1st
doing, I guess.
Battalion Royal Anglian Regiment, also known as the Vikings, are in the Belizean jungle for a month. To get through the jungle exercise, they need different kit.
That's some
Back to
hardcore stuff, I'll be
basics.
honest.
Each man will come with a compass pouch and a spare compass attached with a lanyard. That's so we obviously don't lose it. Inside
That's
our left
pretty
pocket as well,
basic.
we have a survival guide, which is what we use in case we do get lost. In our right-hand pocket,
Just a cheat
we
sheet,
have our map
yeah.
clipped on with our pocket to make sure we don't lose it as well. Moving on to our belt kit, so every man on the left-hand side will carry their parang. Again, this is used for safety measures.
So we would have had a machete. I didn't bring my machete. I still actually have my military machete. Actually, I think I bought it from an army surplus store in the last couple of years I was in, just because I liked it so much. A little bit longer than that, plastic handle, not as big of a end. I'm guessing that extra end there adds a little bit more weight for your swing. Gives you a little bit more power. Those things can be pretty deadly, to be honest. And I remember, actually, another good one. I remember one time I wasn't with that. So I had been given I think it was called a Laplander knife from the Norwegians when the Norwegian Civil Defense Battalion came over and we were training them. And it's about yay long and it's a pretty thick knife. And I would carry that a lot. And I was chopping down a little sapling, kind of like the one that you see behind this guy here. And I took too much of an angle on it, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but it bounced off of the tree and went right into my hand. There, you can see the scar. You can still see the scar. It went right down to the bone. And I clapped my hand on it, and I walked over to the ambulance, which was just at the other end of the hide, and I'm like, can you sew this up for me? And the guy was like, oh, that's a good one.
As you can see from the grease, we oil it every morning to make sure it's in good condition. We only use these for safety, so that is if we do
It's
get
a
lost
nice
in the
looking
jungle,
knife.
okay, and we do need to get ourselves out, we have a safety measure so we can cut our way through. The reason these are different than most boots is that on the inside of our boot is spike protection. As you can imagine here, there's a lot of nasty trees around here that want to get into your boots. Also with that, as you can see,
I think those are the
all of
same as
our,
we wore.
Trousers are tucked into our boots.
I still got those somewhere.
secured
Mine are
tightly.
green, but
the reason being,
green and
as
black.
you can imagine again, as the insects do come on you as you're crawling through the jungle, they love coming in here and getting stuck in here.
So in Canada, we actually had I had the old style combats before they went to the CADPAT, and the bottoms of our trousers were actually a two-stage thing. They actually had an internally sewn cuff. So you put that internal cuff down into your pants, and once you do that, nothing can get up in. And then the outer cuff you can actually blouse the same way that you normally would, and that stops anything from getting up in.
In prior, we use DEET here as well to make sure that no insects go in. We use the same camouflage cream as a normal conventional exercise. However,
Oh, I've got that exact same.
We'll have our hands up as well.
Yeah, I've got that exact same kit.
In the jungle.
I think it's out in the garage.
And it's also back to basics when it comes to soldiering skills.
The tactics that we employ in the jungle are different to those we might employ on Salisbury Plain, for instance.
So, again, if you're not new to the channel, if you've been in the channel before, I've explained this before, but something that's different from the way the Americans do it. Canada takes a lot of its traditions from Britain. Not all, like some people have said in the comments, but a lot of our traditions come from Britain. So an officer commanding will always be company level, and generally they're a major. And then the company 2IC. 2IC in Canada basically means second in command, and there are a lot of second in commands. There's a company 2IC, platoon 2IC, section 2IC. But when you get to the battalion level, rather than officer commanding, it's commanding officer. And at least in Canada, the 2IC of a battalion is actually called the DCO. the deputy commanding officer.
Because the jungle is so much thicker, we use a much higher rate of fire when in contact with the enemy. When it comes to our tactics, it's much harder.
Yeah, so this is another interesting thing. Back in the late 80s, I think, well, 88, we started getting them, at least in the rifle team, because I was in the rifle team in 88. And I think the rest of the company's in like 89. We were carrying the FNC-1s, which was a 7.62 millimeter assault weapon. C1, C2, really. There was C1 is semi-automatic, shoulder-fired. The C2 was a fully automatic, squad automatic weapon, which came with 30-round magazines, 7.62, had a bipod, and it could also be shoulder-fired, but you didn't really want to put a fully automatic machine gun up to your shoulder. And those, it was kind of like a joke in the battalion that the 7.62, you could fire that thing at 500 meters. It would go through a 6-inch tree and still kill the guy. Whereas when we got the 5.56, the C7, C8s, C9s, you were lucky if those could go. I mean, we would say you're lucky if those could go 500 meters. They would go 500 meters because we'd shoot them 500 meters. But by the time they got there, there's no way they were going through a 6-inch tree. So when you're firing through the jungle like this, you really do need the extra weight of the heavier caliber weapons.
To communicate with each other. The radios are far less effective, so we rely an awful lot on hand signals.
That's good to know too, yeah.
Silently at night. The very basic skills here are some of the most important ones that we're assessed on and
just double file. That's all he's saying.
Just being able to survive in the jungle and look after yourself and your kit is one of the most important skills.
For most of these Vikings, it's the first time in their lives they've seen a jungle.
It has been a massive shock. So
I like
you
that.
hit the ground, the humidity hits you, and the heat. It has been a real challenge to navigate.
So our company, so I started out in Charles' company, 1RCR, and our symbol was a polar bear. Bravo company had I think a skull and crossbones or something like that, if I remember correctly. Ours were blue. Now blue was also blue was also the RCR colors. RCR colors are royal blue, gold, and black. So Charles company used blue. Bravo company used black. Duke's company used red, which was interesting, and I don't remember what their symbol was. And then we stood up Delta company too, and I was in Delta company for a while. I honestly don't remember what the symbol for Delta company was. Oh man, I'm getting old.
And to actually get eyes on enemy positions until we're within 5 to 10 meters, and so it has been a shock to everyone on the exercise.
Yeah, if you can move up quietly, I've done that before too. When the whole fire base is on one side and you get one or two people just move up quietly to the side, I've got non-filleted fire on guys from literally 10 meters away. It scares the ever-living crap out of them.
As well as live firing.
Okay, so this is a nice comparison. Oh, shoot. I was hoping it was a figure 11 and a figure 12. No, this is two figure 11 targets. Those targets are probably about as wide as my chest-ish. I don't think that they're as wide as my shoulders, or if they are as wide as my shoulders, they're meant to be as realistic as possible to the size of a person. And so those are the targets that we fired at most. And then there was the figure 12 target, which we used for what we called snap shooting. And that was essentially just the head and shoulders portion of the figure 11 target. So a much smaller target. And we would fire at those anywhere from 100 to 500 meters.
And sleeping out amongst the jungle's animal inhabitants, they're also expected to complete a river crossing, a way to go unnoticed by the enemy. This one just happens to be crocodile infested.
Ooh, fun.
If something were to go wrong, they're 3 hours from a hospital.
And by that I mean no fun at all.
Usual for an exercise.
So we've had a lot of infected scratches and bites, which we've treated, but we've also had some quite unusual bites and lesions of the skin, such as lesion.
So this is interesting. I'm wondering if, I mean, I see that she's got some cam on her face, but the fact that the ambulance is out there like it is, I mean, that screams non-tactical to me. Our medics, when we were on a tactical exercise like this, our medics dismounted and went with us. And whatever we were carrying on our backs, this is why I like the medics so much. Whatever we were carrying on our backs, they were carrying basically the same thing, but then they had their medical kit on the front, and they were humping with us all the way. There was, I mean, we had ambulances a lot of times. Whenever we were mounted, we had an ambulance with us. But if we were dismounted, they were too.
Lysis and botfly, where the fly actually leaves the larva in the skin to grow. It's rather unpleasant. We're from Cyprus, so we're used to dealing with heat and also treating heat illness. My medics, my excellent medics, are all over managing that. And
I think she just said she's from Cyprus. They might have been stationed in Cyprus. There's a big British force stationed in Cyprus, and I worked with them. Akrotiri, I think, is the air base, and there's another base over there. Not Limassol. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure Akrotiri is the big one. And it's hot in Cyprus.
They are trained to actually treat heat illness within the jungle so that we critically reduce the heat, the temperature, the rectal temperature within 30 minutes.
Did she say the rectal temperature? Okay.
Not all the soldiers sent here manage to complete the exercise. Some of them end up evacuated due to heat illness.
That's gotta be tough.
The troops will be surviving off ration packs whilst they're in the jungle. But if they were stranded here in an operational situation, they'd have to find alternatives.
Oh, that's important. That's a sterno block that he has down below there.
As a last resort. So the trap we got here.
So I've said this before. This guy's a lance corporal. A lance corporal would be the same as a Canadian corporal or the same as an American specialist or an American corporal. Yeah. A British corporal is equivalent to a Canadian master corporal and equivalent to an American 3-stripe sergeant. Just the 3 up. The 3 up, 1 down would be equivalent to a Canadian sergeant or a British sergeant. Yeah. Yeah.
Is the dangle. All this trap is a trap that will lift the animal up. As you can see, we've got peanuts there as bait. But you can
so we did this on our reconnaissance course.
Grass, anything a bird will eat. That will then launch them.
I'll have to do a video on my reconnaissance course sometime. That was
which gives you enough time to go find.
That was a kind of a tough course. The first course I ever did in the battalion too.
Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Thompson is the commanding officer of 1 Royal Anglian and was here in Belize 17 years ago, taking part in the jungle exercise himself.
It's changed a bit in terms of the roads and the infrastructure, but other than that, the jungle is still the same jungle as 17 years ago. There are lots of transferable skills that we learned from.
So this is nice. This is something that we used to do all the time too. I'm guessing that the lines that he's got out there, those are grid lines. And this is basically a 3-dimensional diorama map that you put down there to help the guys visualize the attacks that they're going to have to be performing.
Operating in the jungle. And whilst, you might go to another country and the humidity, the climate won't be anywhere near as oppressive as operating in the jungle, all of the skills that the soldiers will have picked up here are absolutely transferable. Belize is one of
you notice that
the
CO is in
this
this
set up from the
nice truck
and under future
SUV.
soldier, and the intention is to continue to use this for expeditionary training for up to company size and the ability for a company to be able to plan and deliver its own training. One of the things that we're looking at in the army and how we fight in the future is, in a much more dispersed manner than we've perhaps previously trained for.
That's
and in
interesting.
order to do that, a company needs to understand how its logistics are going to operate, how it can resupply itself, what it can carry.
Okay, they're still training at the company level, just more dispersed than a battalion.
While still being able to fight and operate effectively.
With the combination of survival
that's cool,
and
actually.
tactical skills they've been exposed to here, the Vikings will go back to Cyprus with the assurance they can live
they're
and
all from
fight
Cyprus.
in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. Sophie
Cyprus was a
Kakianis,
nice country.
Forces
I liked
News,
it.
Belize.
All right. Well, that was pretty cool. That I mean, the training looked basically the same as as the training that we would do, but the environment. If you're in that hot of an environment, it's wet all the time, and the jungle that you've got to go through, the conditions that you've got to live and sleep in, man, that's some difficult training. So that's pretty cool stuff. So that was jungle training. Woohoo! All right, if you like the video, guys, please leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you like the content. That way you'll always know when I'm putting out new content, and it really helps the channel. And absolutely, I love the comments down below. Good or bad, doesn't matter. It helps the algorithm. So, yeah, take care. See you on the next one, guys. Bye.